The Council flagship drifted in emerald light, its crystal hulls gleaming with power and pride. 12 alien dignitaries sat in a circle beneath banners of conquest, their voices dripping with amusement. Humans, Admiral Varelian said, talons clicking against the armrest. They extinguished themselves centuries ago. What remains is scrap, relic metal and dust. Laughter rippled through the chamber. Projectors displayed fractured images from Sol, collapsed cities, burned seas, and the twisted skeleton of a ship marked TNS Aegis. Relic planet, another delegate said. Nothing more than obsolete salvage. Beneath the arrogance, a quiet unease stirred, something no one would name. The hologram of the Terran warship rotated slowly, annotated with degradation data. "Strike it from naval records," Varelian ordered. "Decommissioned, worthless." A stylus flashed across the screen. The file sealed. Far below, in Earth's orbit, automated scout drones swept the sky. No life signs. No industry. Just ruins, one transmission read. The Council relaxed. "A civilization that destroys itself does not deserve remembrance," the Chancellor said. His words fell like a final decree. But silence on Earth was not lifeless. Beneath dust and ash, deep within the bones of continents, something stirred. The wreck of Aegis was not rust, it was reforged. Steel plates welded by unknown hands. Faint blue light pulsed through buried reactor veins. From a distant observation post, Commander Seelin frowned. "These readings? They don't match archived human tech." "Probably magnetospheric noise," her aide said. "Probably." But her eyes stayed on the rising power signature. In the council hall, the celebration grew louder. Glasses raised. Songs of dominion filled the air. "Imagine," one laughed, "they once dreamed of ruling the stars. Now their bones fuel our reactors." "Humanity," another smirked. "A failed experiment. Mockery. Pure. Absolute." Then the hologram flickered. A pulse, a single heartbeat of data, cut through the noise. "Static interference," the technician muttered. "Probably solar flux." The anomaly was logged and dismissed. "Proceed to the next agenda item," the Chancellor said. Calm, certain, and deep below, Earth awakened. A reactor buried under centuries of soil surged online. Power output, 4.3 terawatts. Sensor logs spiked, Seelin's console flashed. She froze. The image of Aegis filled her screen. Alive, glowing, armor repaired. On its spine, a new identification code burned bright. TNS Aegis, Earth Defense Node 01, her breath caught. She sent the transmission. "Unidentified signal, source confirmed, Sol system. Frequency matches human encryption." On the flagship, Varelian's hand trembled. The crystal cup slipped and shattered. "This is impossible," he whispered. Across the bridge, every display lit at once.
"Signal reacquired."
Origin Earth. For 63 years there had been silence. Now, humanity had spoken. The scout flotilla slid through the dark above Earth, hulls reflecting the cold light of the sun. Their sensors swept the planet's surface, painting outlines of dead continents and hollow seas. No movement, no heat signatures, no life. Captain Threx of the Dominion Survey Corps leaned back in his command chair, mandibles twitching. "Another myth debunked," he said. "The relic planet truly sleeps." Laughter flickered through the bridge crew. The sound was dry, mechanical, mockery disguised as efficiency. "Run a deep scan on the wreck," Threx ordered. "Let's collect our souvenir data and go home." The Aegis appeared on the display, buried, scarred, still half covered in the dust of centuries. Its hull temperature read at -184 Kelvin. Radiation signature, negligible. "Dead metal," the navigator confirmed. Exactly as archived. Yet the secondary readout blinked, once, then again. A faint line of power, flickering beneath the crust. Residual charge? Could be. Old fusion cells sometimes hold trace energy. Threx waved it off. "Mark it as thermal drift. This planet's been bleeding ghost signals for decades." On his command, a hail transmission pulsed outward. "The standard recovery sequence. Unidentified relic vessel respond. By order of the Galactic Council, you are subject to decommission and salvage inspection." Static filled the comms. No voice. No ping. After 63 seconds, Threx chuckled. "See? Not even ghosts answer." The crew laughed again, their amusement sharp as broken glass. They called it silence. It was listening. One of the sensor officers hesitated. "Sir, the whole telemetry just changed. I'm reading a harmonic vibration. Very faint." "Debris settling," Threx replied. "Ignore it. But it matches a pattern, signal modulation, possibly a startup tone. Do you hear engines, Lieutenant?" "No, sir." "Then log your imagination as a malfunction." He stood and paced to the observation deck. Earth turned slowly below, gray, lifeless, motionless. "Look at it," he said. A monument to their arrogance. They thought steel could conquer time. He gestured toward the display. "Now their proud warship sleeps under its own ashes."
Fitting, isn't it?
"Fitting," echoed his first officer. Across the fleet, 5 other scout ships mirrored the scans. Power readings, minor fluctuations, each dismissed as local interference. Data logs filled with notes. Decay signature. No operational systems. Confirmed inert. Above the static, a single encrypted frequency flickered, unnoticed. It carried no words, only timing pulses, precise to the nanosecond. Each pulse synchronized with Earth's rotation. "Transmission complete," comms reported. No response. "We'll move to secondary orbit for retrieval authorization." Threx nodded. "Relay to command. Planet confirmed inactive. Recommend classification. Historic artifact zone." "Understood." The report drafted itself automatically, full of sterile phrases and technical dismissal. "System inert. No sentient signs. Wreck contains residual fusion decay. Insignificant." Threx sealed it with his identic crest. Let them laugh at the legends one more time. Outside, the scout ships adjusted course. Engines flared blue, shifting into high orbit. Beneath them, the Aegis exhaled a whisper of heat, barely measurable, lost in solar static. Deep inside its reactor core, dormant circuits awoke. A memory pulse cascaded through forgotten relays, checking hull integrity, power ratios, weapon coils. For 0.3 seconds, the ship's identifier beacon flickered on. TNS Aegis, operational readiness, 4%. No one saw it. In the bridge of the Dominion flagship, Threx signed off his final entry. "Human relic, unresponsive. Recommend total reclamation." He leaned back satisfied. "Extinct," he said softly, "and still beneath us." On the planet below, faint light traced through buried alloy veins. The silence held, but it was no longer still. The order came with laughter. "Target the relic. One burst for history's sake." From the Dominion flagship Valkyrian, 30 lances of energy flared across the void, each capable of vaporizing a moonlet. The formation tightened, beams converging on the scarred shell of TNS Aegis. For 3 seconds, space burned white. Sensors screamed. Debris clouds rippled. When the glare faded, the human's derelict ship still stood, untouched, its hull glowing faintly like tempered glass. "Confirm strike?" Admiral Varelian demanded. "Direct impact. 97 terawatts per lance. Target integrity unchanged." The bridge fell silent. "Impossible," someone whispered. Another volley followed. 50 beams this time, converging in precise harmony, every wavelength tuned to pierce armor. The hull of Aegis absorbed it all. Radiation readings climbed, then inverted. A pulse, cold and focused, shot backward along the attack vectors. 3 Dominion cruisers erupted into plasma, their armor plates folding inward. A 4th drifted, melting from its core. Telemetry blinked red across the command screens. "Redirect ratio detected," the technician stammered. 3% of total output returned. Coherent wave, mirrored trajectory. 3%? Varelian barked. "That's not reflection, that's retaliation." 7% absorbed. 3% returned. 4 ships gone. Static filled the comms as panic spread through the task groups. Across 10,000 vessels, officers stared at the impossible data. "It's feeding on our fire," one captain said, voice shaking. "Their armor's converting energy into kinetic inversion. That's preposterous. They're relics." "Then explain the melting hulls, Admiral." The flagship's forward observation deck darkened as filters adjusted. The Aegis now glowed with a faint blue corona, ionized atmosphere curling like breath. Energy signature, rising exponentially. Commander Seelan, still aboard the observation station, spoke over encrypted line. I warned them, she said quietly. Those readings were no decay pattern. On the Dominion bridge, chaos brewed. Maintain barrage, Varelian ordered. Overload the core, saturate until it breaks. Dozens of cruisers aligned, their emitters screaming through vacuum. The beams struck again, another sea of light, another storm of failure. When the glare cleared, Aegis moved. Just slightly, enough for every admiral in the formation to see the truth. This was no ruin. Retention spike, 97% absorbed, flashed across internal data streams. She's alive, whispered an ensign. Alive and awake. In the fleet's peripheral sensors, low-band radio static emerged, structured, deliberate. 5 pulses, pause. 2 pulses, pause. Human Morse code, decoded line, cease fire. Varelian stared at it, expression unreadable. Arrogant till the end, he said. Destroy it, but the Dominion's second barrage never launched. Systems refused commands. Target locks broke. Weapon nodes froze. A backtrace flooded their control grid, simple ancient code overriding everything, signal intrusion from the relic. Impossible. Our encryption is compromised, Admiral. On every tactical screen, the same message appeared in clean Terran script. Fire returned is fire judged. The command bridge went deathly still. Outside, debris from the melted cruisers drifted like quiet embers. Pull the fleet back, Varelian said finally, voice thin. But now, engines flared, formations broke. Thousands of ships began retreating in disarray. And through the receding haze, TNS Aegis rotated on its axis, armor gleaming with captured light. No weapons fired. No pursuit began. Only one final burst of communication escaped its hull, unmodulated, blunt, and calm. Do not return to Earth. The signal propagated across the void, untraceable, yet unmistakable. Within hours, Council worlds would replay the footage, Dominion fleets burning under their own reflected fire. 100 civilizations would ask the same question. If relics could do this, what would their creators unleash next? In the quiet beyond Seoul, Aegis dimmed her glow, venting heat into darkness. System stabilized. Power containment, 97%. Return capacity, 3%. Status, operational. The galaxy's laughter had ended. The Dominion fleets regrouped beyond the lunar shadow, confidence cracked, but not yet gone. Admiral Varelian stared at the tactical map. One blue icon, TNS Aegis, surrounded by 10,000 Dominion signatures. She cannot move, he said. She's a relic, not a fleet. A moment later, the icon moved. At first, the motion seemed like a glitch, an abrupt vector shift of impossible precision. Then came the telemetry, velocity climbing through Mach 10. Mach 18. Mach 726 equivalent in vacuum. Confirm that. Confirmed, Admiral. The human ship is accelerating at 800 Gs. No thrust signature. Every targeting matrix on the flagship flickered red. Predictive algorithms failed to track. A ship that massive can't maneuver like that, the weapons officer said. Then it's not a ship, another whispered. Across the void, Aegis split into 5 ghostly afterimages, light distortions trailing behind real metal. Radar locked onto one. It vanished. A second appeared in a different orbit, then another, faster still. Update your locks, Varelian barked. Track heat, not visuals. Heat dispersion unreadable, sir. The hull's bleeding its own signature. On the Dominion side, panic replaced discipline. Fleets collided mid-course as their targeting AIs recalculated trajectories that no longer existed. What kind of propulsion is that? None we understand. Inside the Aegis, the command core remained silent. Human crew stations were dark, automated subroutines controlling every shift. Gravimetric fields bent around the hull, converting stored energy from absorbed fire into raw momentum. Acceleration, Mach 26. Target lock duration, 0.07 seconds. Every 7 seconds, Aegis changed formation, its smaller escorts emerging from orbit like shards of midnight, forming precise lattice lines across the Dominion's approach vectors. Sensors from the observation post captured the formation pattern. To alien analysts, it looked like chaos. To human engineers, it was doctrine. Each vector pivoted around invisible anchors, a choreography of physics rewritten by will. Admiral, a junior officer gasped, The entire fleet's targeting collapse rate just hit 94%. Reboot the systems. They already did. 5 times. Through the viewport, the alien crews saw blue arcs rip through nothingness, ships shifting, phasing, accelerating. It wasn't warp. It was movement so fast the vacuum couldn't decide where they'd been. Retention spike. Mach 26 burned across Dominion data streams. They're playing with us, Varelian whispered. They're hurting our formations apart, and he was right. Every time a Dominion line regrouped, a new kinetic ghost of Aegis flashed past, its passage trailing inertial shockwaves that knocked smaller ships out of alignment. Cruisers collided. Frigates spun into debris. They're not firing, the comms officer said. No, Varelian replied, staring at the holomap where his fleet disintegrated without a single shot fired. They're measuring us. In the silence that followed, Dominion channels filled with distorted telemetry, each human maneuver logged with impossible precision. Within 10 minutes, 32% of their ships were adrift, systems overheated from futile tracking loops. Inside the Aegis, a voice finally spoke, calm and human. Acceleration doctrine complete. Target grid established. The command data streamed across every fleet sensor in range, untranslated, unencrypted, open for all to see. A message hidden within the telemetry. We are awake. We are watching. Varelian sank into his chair, watching the kinetic traces circle his fleet like wolves. They could destroy us now, his second-in-command said. Then why haven't they? Perhaps they're waiting. Outside, the human warships slowed. The after-images faded. The vacuum fell still again. For a heartbeat, it looked like the storm had passed. Then Aegis's railgun pods rotated in silence, locking across the scattered Dominion formation. Every system charged, every trajectory aligned. The next moment would decide whether mercy still existed between stars. Silence held for exactly 1 second. Then TNS Aegis fired, no flash. No warning, just motion. Tungsten slugs, each 10 meters long and dense as gilt, launched at relativistic speed, magnetically hurled across the void. Velocity, 0.12 c. Impact time, 37 seconds. The Dominion's command array caught the readings too late. Mass projectiles inbound. Count exceeds tracking capacity. Vector origin? Earth relic Aegis. By the time the words left their mouths, the first impact struck. Cruiser Valeth 9 disappeared, vaporized as its armor turned into plasma. Then 3 more vanished. A chain of detonations cascaded across the formation, ships sliced in half, air and light spilling into the cold. Sensors screamed. 4,000, no, over 4,000 hulls compromised. In 37 seconds, the battle group that had once been the Dominion's pride was gone, reduced to drifting shards. Admiral Varelian's voice cracked through the command bridge. Identify the weapon system. That can't be railguns. But every feed said the same. Kinetic strike pattern confirmed. No radiation, no warhead, no mercy. Each slug carried only mass. Mass multiplied by speed. The simplest equation ever written, humanity's language of war. Command grid failing, an aide whispered. The loss ratio is catastrophic. How many? Confirmed 4,100 ships destroyed, Admiral. 37 seconds total duration. For a heartbeat, even the vacuum seemed to hesitate. Then chaos returned. Thousands of Dominion ships broke formation, colliding as their guidance networks failed. Their shared targeting algorithms overloaded, unable to compute trajectories faster than the human railfire rate. One captain shouted through open channels, "They aren't fighting for territory, they're demonstrating physics." Across the observation decks, the remains of the Dominion fleet burned like a slow dawn. Inside Aegis, human command nodes pulsed with calm precision. Each firing sequence logged. Each target selected for minimal civilian collateral. Status lines scrolled in silence. Rounds deployed. 4,100 total engagement duration. 37.2 seconds collateral impact probability. 0.4% Captain Mira Kyle. Seated at the central command dais, watched the numbers without triumph. "Cease fire," she said softly. Her voice was steady. "Mark every trajectory for record. Send proof to the Council archives," the AI acknowledged. "All data transmitted. Tribunal protocol initiated. Back in the Dominion flagship, Fire alarms cut through silence. Varelian stood motionless as his empire's fleet dissolved before his eyes. "Recall what remains," he ordered. Command link severed. "Manual override." "Nothing's responding." The panic spread. Ships fired thrusters at random, trying to flee invisible trajectories. On every surviving vessel, combat crews stared at the readings in disbelief. 4,037 seconds. That's not war. That's judgment. Retention spike. 4,100 ships, 37 seconds. Flashed on tactical feeds across the sector. In the aftermath, comms filled with desperate fragments. "Fleet command is gone. Who's leading?" "No one." "Then retreat." "Get us out of Sol!" Engines ignited. Thousands of drives flared blue as what remained of the Dominion armada fled. In the command center of Aegis, Captain Kyle closed her eyes. "We gave them every chance," she murmured. The AI's tone was neutral. "No surrender signal detected. Then we hold position. Recover the debris fields. Transmit humanitarian corridors to all factions within range." A pause. Then the machine replied, "Understood. Firing sequence complete. Strike data archived for tribunal." On the flagship Valkyrian, Varelian watched the human transmission arrive. Simple text, no encryption. "Cease aggression. Civilians will not be harmed." His jaw clenched. "They strike like gods," he whispered, "and speak like judges." Behind him, the bridge lights flickered and died. The wreckage of 4,100 ships glimmered in orbit, each fragment reflecting a single truth. The age of Dominion fire was over. And through the silence, Aegis waited, its cannons cooling, its captain calm, her orders unspoken but absolute. The wreckage of 4,100 ships still burned in silence when TNS Aegis powered down its railguns. No pursuit, no chase, only stillness, disciplined and deliberate. Across the Dominion channels, commanders braced for the next strike that never came. Instead, every screen blinked to life with a transmission. It carried no threat, no demand, only coordinates. "Terran broadcast," the AI announced. "Content, humanitarian evacuation corridors. Frequency spread, galactic standard. Encryption. None. Each vector led away from populated zones, carving safe paths through warfront sectors. Civilian routes highlighted in blue. Military concentrations marked in red. Warnings, not targets. In the Council's high chamber, silence replaced the usual arrogance. "What are they doing?" the Zenari delegate asked. "No species spares the enemy's civilians." "Perhaps," said another. "They intend a trap," but no trap came. Within 2 hours, Terran fleets appeared across 39 systems, each broadcasting identical messages. "Evacuate non-combatants. You will not be fired upon." Alien civilians, trembling in disbelief, began boarding transports under the shadow of human warships. Reports flooded the net. Terran vessels assisting in evacuation near Althar Prime. Medbays opening to wounded enemy crews. No ransom, no terms. It was beyond comprehension. To the Dominion, mercy was weakness. To humanity, it was precision. On board Aegis, Captain Mira Kale stood before the tactical map, a constellation of blue and red. "They'll call it hypocrisy," her second-in-command said. "They'll call it restraint," she replied. "Both will be correct." Telemetry updates scrolled across the bridge. Evacuation corridors established, 20 civilian lives. Relocated 20,000 plus. Human losses, 0.3%. Confirmed transmission to Council Worlds, Kale ordered. "Confirmed. Legal declaration attached. Article 4 of the Terran War Ethics Charter." "Good," she said. "Let them read what victory looks like when it costs nothing." On the Dominion flagship Valkyrian, Admiral Varelian watched the same broadcast repeat endlessly on his damaged console. Human coordinates open to all. He clenched his claws around the edge of the table. "They destroy 4,100 ships," he muttered. "Then open escape routes for our civilians?" The comms officer didn't answer. There were no words left for that kind of power. Across the galaxy, millions watched through intercepted feeds. The tone of conversation changed. Some called it manipulation. Others called it justice. But every empire saw the same undeniable calculus. Humans did not conquer, they corrected. A scholar on the rim wrote, "They fight like wolves, yet guard the lambs they wound." Another, whispering in fear, asked, if mercy is their weapon. What hope do we have? In the Council archives, legal analysts dissected every Terran message. Each one cited precedent, law, clause, or humanitarian code. No emotion. No gloating. Just law and geometry. Retention spike. Evacuate. Civilians first, echoed across holofeeds. By the third hour, Dominion fleets ceased firing entirely. Ships lowered shields, engines cooling under the unspoken truth. There was no victory to reclaim from such restraint. A single transmission arrived on Aegis from an unknown source, encoded in Council syntax. Why spare us? Kyle read it once, then answered. Because power measured without mercy is tyranny. We ended that age. The message spread like fire. Every network replayed her words until even the most distant colonies heard them. Empires began withdrawing their fleets, not from defeat, but from reflection. In the dark between worlds, Terran cruisers stood guard over refugee convoys, silent and watchful. No banners, no anthems, just the glow of reactor light over the rescued. And from the bridge of Aegis, Kyle watched stars drift past and whispered, "We fought to survive once. Now we fight so others don't have to." The AI's calm voice replied, "Evacuation complete. Civilian mortality negligible. All data transmitted to galactic archives." For the first time in recorded Dominion history, peace came not from surrender, but from awe. It began as a rumor, an impossible claim whispered across fractured Dominion channels. That there were more of them, that Earth's single relic had not fought alone. Then the signals came. In the third hour after the ceasefire, hyperspace nodes across 9 sectors flickered with Terran encryption bursts. Fleet Command assumed it was interference, until the shadows moved. 20 vast signatures decloaked across the galactic map, each one emerging from black silence as though the stars themselves had shifted. Terran formations, triangular, disciplined, silent. Designation confirmed, Eclipse Line, Vanguard, Bastion, Aegis, Iron Veil, and 16 more. Each positioned along major evacuation routes already active. No fleet should have been able to hide that deep, that long. And yet there they were. From the Dominion War archives, analysts stared at the new telemetry. Impossible, one said. Decloak protocols require constant power emissions. We would have seen them. You saw what they wanted you to, another replied. Each Terran fleet lit its navigation grids simultaneously, broad blue corridors forming like arteries between stars. Along them, 20 million civilians from 34 species moved in convoy, freighters, hospital barges, colony arcs. And escorting every one, a Terran warship, retention spike, 20 formations revealed, flashed across galactic feeds. In the council hall, panic and revelation fused into silence. They were never defending just Earth, murmured Chancellor Arith. They were defending us. Across the rim, Dominion admirals debated retreat routes. Our scouts must have missed them, perhaps new stealth alloys. But the data was undeniable. These fleets had been there for years, hidden, watching, waiting. Every path humanity opened was a lifeline. Every vector pointed away from the front lines, straight into secured humanitarian zones, now protected by Terran shields. Admiral Virelian received the updated map aboard the crippled Velkarion. He studied the blue corridors for a long time before whispering, "They planned this." Before the first shot was fired, his aide nodded. "All those routes intersect at Earth." "Of course they do," Virelian said. "Every species they fought has now traveled through the same home system they once called lost. On the outer colonies, refugees watched human ships glide silently past, armor black as void, engines muted. The Terrans offered no words, no flags, only guidance. Beacons blinked along each corridor. Follow. "You are safe." A Zinari elder wept when a Terran destroyer took position between her arc and a collapsing star. "They do not act as conquerors," she whispered. "They act as shepherds." By the end of the 6th hour, all major conflict sectors had gone quiet. Sensor readings confirmed 20 distinct Terran formations stationed along known trade lines, one for every evacuation route. The coverage radius, 2,300 light-years. Estimated civilian count under Terran protection, 20 million. Dominion news feeds filled with disbelief. How did we not know? Asked one anchor. Because they wanted you to underestimate them, said the analyst beside her. And you obliged. From her command deck aboard Aegis, Captain Kale watched the unfolding data cascade. All fleets reporting stable position, her AI confirmed. Transmission logs synchronized. Evacuation efficiency, 92.4%. Kale's gaze hardened. Then initiate full reveal. Let the galaxy see what was already theirs to witness. Moments later, holographic projections across inhabited space displayed the same image. 20 Terran fleets standing sentinel along a web of light, surrounding the core worlds like quiet sentries of judgment. To the proud and the arrogant, it was humiliation. To the broken and the hunted, it was salvation. Scholars would later call it the hidden line revelation. But for those who saw it unfold, it was simpler. Proof that humanity's patience was not weakness, it was design. Virelian's final log entry recorded it best. They prepared for our fall before we even lifted our guns. Their silence was strategy. Their restraint was mercy disguised as inevitability. As the Dominion retreated from the Sol sector, comms across every empire carried the same sentence. Half warning, half prayer. Do not cross the Terran lines. And above it all, unseen beyond the data, the Aegis turned its bow toward the rim, where darkness waited. The quiet before it began was almost sacred. 6 hours since the first broadcast, the Dominion's high command, fractured, desperate, humiliated, made one final attempt. Reinforcements poured from the outer colonies, 18,000 ships strong, a storm of pride masking terror. Human sensors detected them long before they arrived. Onboard TNS Aegis, the tactical hollow bloomed with crimson markers, an ocean of signatures pushing toward the Terran protection lines. Captain Kyle didn't move. Authorization? Asked her AI. Confirm engagement, she said. Doctrine parameters only. Across 20 Terran fleets, weapons arrays came online in synchronized silence. Railgun charges built, reactors hummed, targeting solutions snapped into alignment. At exactly Oros 6 Dro UTC, the command tone sounded. Fire measured. The void erupted. Thousands of tungsten rods sliced through space like invisible thunder, crossing millions of kilometers in seconds. Each slug carried no warhead, only mass, precision, and intent. The Dominion Armada disintegrated mid-charge. Impact telemetry scrolled. Confirmed kills, 18,000. Duration, 6 hours. Human losses, 2.8%. There were no explosions in the traditional sense, just brief suns flickering into existence, then dying in silence. One by one, the Dominion ships went dark, their reactors imploding under the kinetic pressure. From the outside, it looked like time itself had fractured. Terran ships shifted formation between every volley, avoiding crossfire before it existed. Dominion captains screamed for coordination that never came. Their targeting AIs refused to calculate what they could not comprehend. Recalibrate. They're everywhere. No, everywhere we aim, they're gone. 6 hours of this and we'll be... The transmission cut off. In the Council's central chamber, the battle data played in real time. They watched 18,000 ships vanish across the stars while human losses stayed below 3%. Someone whispered, "This isn't war anymore." Another answered, "No, it's demonstration." Each Terran kill sequence was recorded, time-stamped, and transmitted to the Galactic Tribunal archives. Every destroyed ship cataloged, every civilian vector spared, every shot justified by legal framework. Tribunal-ready recordings complete, the Aegis AI confirmed. Kyle nodded. Send to all networks. The data streamed outward, transparent, undeniable. Across the Dominion's remaining colonies, the reaction was disbelief. They had been taught that strength was chaos, dominance through fear. Now they faced a power that killed with precision, then documented every act for judgment. Retention spike, 18,000 destroyed. 3% losses, flashed across galactic feeds. Even the Council's war historians, long biased against humanity, found themselves speechless. No species had ever fought like this. clinical, contained, moral. The galaxy's language of terror had been rewritten in 6 hours. When the firing ceased, the stars looked wounded. Debris glittered across thousands of kilometers, silent witnesses to the new balance of power. Enemy fleet status? Kyle asked. Remaining vessels 1-324, all retreating. Pursuit? Negative. Doctrine prohibits unnecessary chase, she leaned back. Then open medbay channels. Recover survivors if they broadcast surrender. Minutes later, the first distress signals arrived. Terran drones moved through wreck fields, pulling wounded from shattered hulls, stabilizing life support. Dominion survivors expected interrogation or execution. Instead, they found medical care and quiet discipline. Why? One captain asked, voice weak through a respirator. Kale's image flickered before him, calm and still. Because war must end cleanly, she said. Or it never ends at all. On the other side of the galaxy, trillions watched the footage. 6 hours of destruction, 6 hours of restraint. No anthems, no cheers. Only precision and purpose. The Dominion's propaganda collapsed overnight. Fear gave way to awe. Children on council worlds whispered a new name into their languages, the Silent Wolves. And as Aegis powered down its guns once more, Kale gave the same final order she had after every battle. Record everything. Law must remember what mercy costs. The tribunal servers received the last packet at 12 UTC. Case title: 6 hours of fire. Status: closed. No appeal. The war ended without surrender. It ended in silence. Ships drifted, broken and dim, while Terran recovery vessels moved among them, steady, methodical, unarmed. Every surviving Dominion admiral was extracted alive. Not executed, not shamed, alive. They were brought to TNS Aegis, where the war had begun. A tribunal chamber had been prepared. No marble, no spectacle. Just steel, light, and law. Captain Kyle stood at the center dais, flanked by officers who did not speak. Each admiral faced her alone beneath the seal of the Terran Accord. Their crimes projected behind them. Campaigns of slavery, bombardments, exterminations. The first admiral spat at the floor. You think your victory grants you the right to judge the galaxy? Kale's expression never changed. No, she said. Our survival does. The hearings were not vengeance. They were mirrors. Every fact laid bare, every broadcast open to public record. Evidence streamed across the networks, accessible to every world that had once served the Dominion. Retention spike, reform, not tribute, appeared on tribunal feeds, across the stars. Millions watched as Terran judges, calm, deliberate, read the verdicts. Sentences were not death. They were directives. Dismantle forced labor fleets. Dissolve hereditary command lines. Rebuild under civilian councils. Submit to monitored reforms. When the first ruling was read, there was outrage. Where is your punishment? The Dominion governors demanded. Kyle's answer was quiet but absolute. Punishment ends one war. Justice prevents the next. On the council world of Terravan, protests erupted. Citizens screamed that humanity was rewriting the order of power. And they were right. Empires had ruled through fear for centuries. Now they faced a civilization that refused tribute, refused empire, refused pride. All they offered was law, and the weight to enforce it. The galactic feeds changed tone. Where once human names were spoken with mockery, now they carried reverence. Analysts called it the doctrine of measured power. Children on alien worlds studied Terran ethics alongside mathematics. Within months, new accords spread through council space. Trade routes reopened under Terran arbitration. Neutral colonies petitioned for protection under Terran doctrine. It was not conquest, it was gravity. On Aegis, Kyle reviewed the latest reports. Dominion civil restructuring, 43% complete. War tribunals concluded 91 cases. Executed sentences, 0. Her second-in-command frowned. They'll never forgive us. Kyle looked out at the drifting wrecks. They don't have to. They only have to learn. Later that day, the final transmission went out. Reconstruction support offered to all recovering worlds. No reparations requested. The message fractured every known power structure. Without tribute, there could be no revenge. Without revenge, the empires had no purpose left. In the archives of the Dominion, the new calendar began, not from their founding, But from this day, Year 1 of the Terran measure, Admiral Virelian, confined to observation duty on a neutral world, watched the first humanitarian fleets depart. A reporter asked him what he thought of his conquerors. He hesitated, then said, "They won without hatred." That is power I will never understand. Back aboard Aegis, Kale stood in the empty tribunal chamber, light glinting off the seal of Earth. "Justice rendered," her AI said softly. She nodded. "Then archive it. The galaxy will need a record when memory fades." No flags were raised. No monuments built. Only the quiet hum of engines carrying food, medicine, and law to the worlds once called enemies. The age of dominion had ended. And in its place, humanity built something rarer. Peace with teeth. At the edge of the known galaxy, beyond the glow of any star, silence cracked. A pulse rolled through the void, low, ancient, mechanical. Sensors on TNS Aegis caught it first. Frequency, 0.04 Hz. Origin, unknown. Designation, Outer Rim Anomaly. Captain Kyle stood before the observation pane as the data streamed in. "Cross-check with known archives," she said. The AI's reply came after a pause. "No match. Pattern resembles exterminator lattice code. Timestamp, pre-council era. The word exterminator silenced the bridge. Every species knew the legends. Machines older than stars, programmed for eradication. They were myths. Until now. Beyond the rim, beacons ignited one by one, visible only through long-range telemetry. Dark suns pulsing in sequence. Each signal echoed through subspace, rippling toward the core. Kale watched the pattern unfold like a heartbeat. 20 nodes, she murmured. "Aligned to form a lattice perimeter," the AI confirmed. "Transmission trajectory indicates activation cascade. Projected radius, 12,000 light-years," she turned to her officers. "Alert all Terran commands. Protocol Veil." Across the stars, every Terran fleet that had just disarmed now turned. 20 formations, Eclipse Line, Bastion, Iron Veil, Vanguard, and more, pivoted as one toward the black horizon. The corridors they'd built for refugees remained lit behind them, stable and protected. To the galaxy, it looked like retreat. But within Terran Command, it was reorientation. A doctrine as old as Earth itself. Prepare before the threat arrives. News of the signal spread faster than light through rumor. Council chambers erupted in panic. "Is it them? The old machines? After all this peace, how do we fight that?" The answer came in silence. Human silence. On every world under Terran protection, fleets rose from orbit, moving without fanfare. Engines glowed faint blue, their signatures masked to civilian sensors. Every ship that had once defended life now turned outward, toward the abyss. Kale stood at the command dais as the new star maps updated. "Confirm readiness reports. Eclipse Line, online. Iron Veil, online. Total active tonnage, 67 ships. Estimated opposing force? Unknown. The lattice extends beyond mapped sectors." The crew waited for her order. Kyle said only, "Then we meet it, as we met the last." The AI's voice lowered. Transmission continuing. Power amplitude increasing. Any message content? One phrase repeating, source undeciphered. Play it. A vibration filled the bridge. A metallic whisper stretched across light years. 3 words. Cycle incomplete. Resume. Kyle's expression didn't change. Notify the council. Begin population hardening protocols. We'll hold the rim. From her viewport, the galaxy looked small. Billions of lights, fragile, hopeful, unaware that another storm had begun to breathe beyond the dark. Retention spike, outer rim beacons active, burned across Terran data channels. In the Dominion archives, former enemies watched the human fleet's pivot once again and understood. The wolves hadn't vanished. They had simply turned their eyes toward new prey. One Zenari reporter broadcast the image of Terran formations vanishing into the black and said, "Once we feared their anger. Now we rely on their vigilance." Within hours, the Terran defense grid realigned its entire network. Civilian protection fields remained stable. Combat formations dispersed along the rim, engines low, weapons cold. They waited, silent and ready. Kyle stood alone on the bridge, watching the last starlight fade behind them. "Will they come?" her aide asked. They always do, she replied. Predators never stop hunting. Neither do we. The AI logged her final command of the campaign. Maintain blackout. Record everything. Silence is doctrine. Beyond the rim, the ancient beacons pulsed again. Louder this time, synchronized. The galaxy trembled, and humanity turned to face the dark, calm as ever, the wolves of Earth once more on watch.